Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 167 is live head of UFC Louisville. We got a good lineup here for you. First up, we're going to be joined by one half of the main event, Jared Cannonier, to preview his main event fight against Nasruddin Imavov. Really good chat with Jared, just about kind of the time off. He hasn't fought since June of 2023, almost a full year to the date. And just kind of talk about the layoff, what kind of happened, and fighting Imavov, which isn't the opponent he wanted, but he knows this is a good opportunity to kind of remind everyone in the middleweight division just how good he is. We're then going to be joined by Dustin Jacoby, who's fighting in the co-main event against Dominic Reyes. This is a big fight for Dustin. He's coming off that disappointing loss to Alonzo Menafield back in December, which was a fight that he thought he really should have won. He thinks there's moments in that fight that he'd love to correct, and he's really looking forward to this fight. A big opportunity here against Dominic, who hasn't fought since November 2022 when he was knocked out by Ryan Spann. 4 straight losses, 3 straight losses by knockout. But Dustin isn't overlooked Dominic. He knows he's still very tough out, and Dustin's really looking forward to this one. He thinks if he gets a knockout win, he does wonders for his career. We're then going to be joined by Cody Stamann to preview his fight against Taylor Lapilus. Cody hasn't fought since May of last year. A layoff. He revealed to me he tore his bicep, which was the reason for the layoff. And coming off that controversial loss to Douglas Silva, Andrade, he talked about filing an appeal just due to some reffing errors, but it wasn't going to happen. So he decided to drop it. He fights Taylor, who's lost to Farid Basharat last time out, and before that beat Callan Lawfrain in his return to the UFC. So Cody thinks it's a tough fight for him. Obviously, he knows it's going to have to deal with the reach. It's a 8 or to 10 a 10 or 11 inch reach advantage for Taylor, which is massive. But Cody thinks his wrestling, he said he's going back to his roots, and his wrestling going to lead him to the win. And then we close things out talking to John Castaneda about his fight against Daniel Marcos. John, coming off that win in November over Kung Hong Kang, kind of talked about the weight issues and what kind of happened there. And he's fighting Daniel Marcos, undefeated guy, and Castaneda's really looking forward to this fight. He thinks a win here gets him right near those bantamweight ranks. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Jared Cannonier, who's headlining upcoming card on June 8th. Jared, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm feeling real good. Getting glad to be back on the what they call it, the schedule, for lack of a better words. Glad to get back into action.
You were supposed to fight December last year, and then you had that knee injury. Like, when were you kind of fully cleared and ready to start training and take a fight again?
I got cleared. Well, I was supposed to get cleared late March, but I didn't get the appointment until like early April. So early April, I got cleared.
So is this about the perfect time frame for you then? Just like get right into a camp right after getting cleared and ready for a fight?
It's the well, they offered me a fight earlier, like at the beginning of March at 301 to fight Paulo Costa.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been way too early to jump right into a camp coming right off of this injury. I wasn't training everything I needed to be trained. I wasn't like going to all the classes I wanted to be going to. So it just wasn't the right time. It was the perfect opponent, you know. He's definitely a better opponent than the one I have now. But you know, it is what it is. I have to take what I'm given there. You know, I have to take whatever opportunities afforded to me. You know, so it is what it is. You know, it's a match. It's definitely another opportunity to get in there and show the UFC, the fans, and the rest of the world that I'm title bound and I'm a future champion for sure.
I was surprised by this booking because I thought like there's a case that you could get a title shot, or I thought like you should be in a number one contender fight. So were you a bit surprised when this name came across?
No, because you know I'm not the most promotable guy. You know the UFC likes to the UFC is big on promoting the fight. So for some reason the wheel the most squeakiest wheel gets the oil, if you will. On top of that, I haven't been as active, and I don't know. I feel the same way, especially based off of my last performance. I beat the number 3 guy, record-breaking performance. But you know, I feel like that's been overshadowed by the stupid-ass conception that toughness is an attribute that needs to be highlighted every time somebody's, you know, getting their ass whooped. It's like, damn, you guys are crediting this guy for getting his ass whooped to talk about how tough he is. Yeah, Jared broke the record, but how tough is Marvin Vettori is all I've been hearing. And it's asinine to me, you know what I mean? I'm up here whooping this guy's ass, putting hands on him, putting him up against a cage. And Yeah, he's tough, and the dude didn't fall. That is something to be said about that. But it felt like the media and even the commentary overshadowed my performance with the fact that he was just getting his ass whooped, using the word tough. And I think that's just stupid. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing, oh, he's so tough. He's so tough. What, because he's taking a shot? That means he's not good at mixed martial arts. If you ever getting hit, then you ain't too good at your offense or your defensive or evasiveness aspect of this game. So you got some holes to fill. You guys are talking about, oh, his hole is so big. Look at this big ass hole. And you guys are just, throwing flowers all over it. And it's stupid to me. So if they were pumping me up, the way they should have been, like, damn, Jared has gotten way better since that Adesanya fight. He looks way better since that Strickland fight. And look at him here against the number 3 guy. Just, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he got hit early on in the fight, but that was it. And yeah, I feel like the performance was overshadowed by that. And a lot of people tend to overlook me because I don't do a lot of shit talking. I'm not I ain't painting my face and throwing on big floppy shoes and colorful hairstyles and stuff and getting on the camera and on Instagram and on TikTok and Twitter and shaking my ass and doing this and doing that. But it is what it is. It's only a matter of time. The next person, I'm gonna show them some more. I'm better. I'm gonna keep telling you. I'm gonna get better. I'm keep getting better. I'm better this time, and I'm gonna show it on Imavov. Last time I broke a record on number 8 or number 3. Guess what I'm gonna do to the number 8 ranked guy?
You're coming off it's almost a year to the date of your last fight. I know you've had layoffs like this before. I think going into the Whitaker one was similar. Going into the Gaslam one, I think it was 10, 11 months. So you're familiar with this. So is that not much of a concern then for you? You kind of know how to deal with it?
It's unfortunate. I don't say I'm familiar. It is unfortunate that I've become familiar. My career hasn't been a this swan song story of triumph and stuff. And I've had adversity. I've been injured and injuries. I'm in injuries all over the place. Leading up to before the Whitaker fight, I tore my pec. In the Whitaker fight, I broke my arm in the first round and then went the next 2 rounds and hurt him at the end in the 3rd round. You know what I'm saying? So Whitaker won a decision over a one-armed man. And everybody keeps talking about that. Everybody keeps talking like I suck because I lost that fight. But, I fought that fight with a broken arm. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody else doing that shit. So ain't nobody else except for Alex Caceres. Mm-hmm. So it's a certain mindset that I have, that a lot of people don't have. But yeah, and then I broke my arm off for that one. And it didn't heal right, so I had to have 2 surgeries to heal that arm. And then I came back to the Gastelum fight. Made my way to the title after the Brunson fight, lost the title fight, beat Strickland, and then I beat Vettori. And then they had me scheduled. After I beat Vettori, they had me scheduled to fight Deletzi, which was further down in the rankings, but nobody else was available. They told me again. Same thing they told me with this one. So I was getting ready for that. And then right before the Shemaev, who is he going to? He's going to fight
Whitaker.
Yeah, before he fought before they called Usman, they called me. And I'm like, yes. And they called me on a Tuesday, grappling practice. They called me on Tuesday, right before practice. It's crazy. They called me 20 minutes before I walk into the gym to go to practice. So I'm excited. Yes. Let me go in here and tell my coaches I'm going to have practice, and I'm going to call you back with a firm yes afterwards. Then I went in there and tore my freaking ACL off of crazy, So it's very unfortunate. Nothing dramatic that caused the injury. It's just a crazy sequence of events that caused the injury, and it's very unfortunate, especially the timing. So there's another opportunity that I missed out on, and yeah, man, it's just been it's like that, I guess. But I ain't sitting here crying over spilled milk. And back to the grindstone, continually getting better, preparing for the next challenge, and here we are. I'm ready, more than ready, and willing to go in there and show them what's up.
And getting a main event spot in that return, is that something you hope for? Or is it just kind of what was offered? Like, were you rather like a 3-round fight just kind of ease back in, or do you always think it was going to be main event?
No, I like main events. We get main event money, so I don't mind that extra 25K to hit up for another 2 rounds. On top of that, my condition is never an issue. I can't say the same for my opponent. He seems like he's gotten tired, slowed down in some of his fights, so it's going to be more of a detriment to him than it is to me. Even though I've been off for a year, my cardio is king. It's always one of the things, one of the stones I will never leave unturned is my conditioning. So my team here at the MMA Lab, y'all see the shirt? Oh, wrong side. This thing is reversed. Y'all see the shirt, MMA Lab all day. We're doing big things over there. Also, Arid Sports Medicine, making me stronger for longer. So yeah, my conditioning is never an issue. I'm always happy. I'm actually grateful to be put in this position. You know, it's like being popped up on a pedestal, being put up on a pedestal, being the main event, the guy that everybody's coming in to see. And I'm gonna show you guys something new this time, something better. I'm always getting better, so you can always expect that. He's always gonna get better, even though I'm getting a little older, a little longer in the tooth. That doesn't mean I'm getting worse. I'm a level 40. That's a higher level than a level 39. So I'm much better, more time to grind. And yeah, man, I'm ready to go in there and smash some heads.
And then fighting in front of fans too. How exciting is that for you? Where the past two have been just at the apex.
That's the bonus. That's the really highlight of this whole thing. I'll get to go to Louisville, Kentucky. Never been to Kentucky, the Bluegrass State, and go in there and fight in front of a crowd of enthusiastic fans and put on a show. You know, and these are opportunities where fighters can really make a name for themselves, really put themselves in the spotlight. We just saw Joaquin Buckley do the same thing in St. Louis. And the lead up that he did getting into that, you know, he grinded for that spot, and he went in there and made big and went and capitalized on the opportunity. And when he got on the mic afterwards, man, he did everything right in this whole thing. Before, during, and after, he did everything right. So not to say I'm gonna take a page out of his book, but going along those lines is definitely an opportunity to shine in front of a bunch of eyes, millions of eyes. Hopefully it's hopefully it ain't gonna be a 5-round war. It's gonna be a quick one for me. That's what I want.
Is there a lot of pressure going on you going into this one? Just like you are fighting down the rankings, like say you lose to him, like it doesn't seem that the UFC really wants to push you that much. Like you lose to him, you're probably like pretty far away from a title where like, but you win. Like I don't really know how much it does to you. Like, is there a lot of pressure on you going to this one then?
There's that inherent pressure, but I don't really play into that. I don't think about that. There's enough pressure already fighting a man who trains and skilled and who can, you know, who's skilled for the kill, if you will. That was a quick little round. It's good. But there's enough pressure in that already, you know. But no, I don't. Pressure does not affect me. You know what I mean? I'm too big. I'm too strong. I'm too dense to be pressured. To be you can't like compact me. I can't be like under pressure. No, when I feel pressure, I mass up. I mass up like Hulk, like the Hulk. So you can't put no pressure on me. I'm just gonna get bigger and bigger.
How do you kind of see this one playing out? Like as we've seen Imavov's fight, like he slowed down against Dolidze and like Phil Haas, in the Strickland fight, he kind of fade as the fight went on. So like, how do you kind of see this one playing out?
Pressure from start to finish. I'm gonna get in his face. He's gonna feel uncomfortable. He's gonna look uncomfortable. He's gonna be fighting for his life. And that's gonna be it. We're gonna see how much of a Dagestan. Is he from Dagestan? I know he's from France, but is he he's from Russia?
He says it's born in Dagestan.
Yeah, we're gonna see how much of a Dagestani he is. He's gonna be shooting for the hips when he starts seeing his bombs come towards him. Yeah, man, I just plan on putting it on him, man, like the killer gorilla. You know what I mean? I embody the gorilla, and the way gorillas act in the wild. You know what I'm saying? They go in and they muscle up on people. They you know what I mean? It's physical. It's gonna be a physical fight for sure. It's not gonna be a kickboxing match. It's gonna be a physical MMA match. So I'm gonna go in there and put my hands on him. If I grab a hold of him, we're gonna see how strong he is. You're gonna compare it to the killer gorilla, and yeah, I plan on putting it on him.
What do you think a win here does for you? Like there are some big middleweight fights in June. Like you have Strickland Cost the week before, you have Whitaker Chimaev like 2-3 weeks after you. So like, and then it looks like Adesanya is getting that next title shot. Like, what do you think a win here does for you?
Well, with any fight, a great performance can always elevate a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's my goal. It's always our goal, going to have the best performance of my life, and better than the last time. That's for damn sure. It's going to be better than the last time. And last time I broke a record. Last time I got a bonus. So you guys use your imagination and figure it out on your own, or you can wait until June 8th and see me go. But definitely gonna reopen some eyes. Have some, raise some eyebrows. Like, Jared's ready. He's always ready. I was ready to jump in with Hamzat in Abu Dhabi. They'll call me 11 days. I'm ready to fly all the way across the world and go in there and put it on him too. But unfortunately, my MCL had other plans. So that's life, man. It's always, for me, it's always something perceived to be bad. Always happens, followed by something great and grand. So I'm expecting something big to come out of this. I'm not going to announce it right here. I guess I'll wait. But anyway, after this performance, I expect the UFC to keep my name on speed dial. If anything happens between Whitaker and Hamzat, I'm here. If anything happens between that championship fight, I'm here. If what's his name?
The Strickland Costa
don't make it, I'm willing to move my camp up a week ahead to go out there and do a thing. You know what I mean? For the bigger fight.
Mm-hmm. Is that something like you're open to? Is like being a backup fighter? Like I know some guys like the opportunity of that, kind of gets them as that number one spot, and others be like, I don't want to cut weight if there's no fight kind of guaranteed. Like, is that something you'd be open to then?
Well, a lot of these guys be cheating, cutting weight. They cut off an arm, they kill themselves. You know what I mean? And then they get in there and get on the weight on the scale. That's not me. I don't have no hard weight cuts. I don't cut a lot of weight to make weight. It's not a hard weight cut for me. So I don't mind getting paid a little extra money to be a backup, plus the opportunity to step in there. And you know what I mean? So, for those guys who say that, then maybe I need to go up a weight class. Quit cheating. You know what I'm saying? Quit cheating. Y'all trying to fight little guys. But, I fought heavyweight. I'm not a natural heavyweight. I fought light heavyweight. I ain't a natural light heavyweight. All those guys towered over me, bigger than me. This is my natural weight class. You guys are still taller than me, but it's more level playing field here. You know what I mean? So most of these guys is pussies, I guess. Shit. But I guess that's the time we live in. Most men these days are.
Just final thing, like since you've last been in there, like the middleweight division has changed a lot. Like, what are your kind of thoughts on that? Top of the division, you obviously have DDP as the champ. Looks like Adesanya's getting the rematch. Like Hamzat's right up there now. Like, what do you kind of made at that top of the division since you've been gone?
Well, you know how the song goes. Time waits for no man. So the show goes on, as Dana said. If you're not there for it, then they'll find somebody else. That's how it goes. So again, unfortunate injuries have always been the thing that keep me from these things. But I'm not gonna let any of that stop me. It is what it is. It's been entertaining to see the division play out the way it is. I'm a fan of the sport. You know what I'm saying? I watch fights every weekend, not just UFC, but all kinds of fights. I watch wrestling. I've been watching a fuckload of Muay Thai. I watch a lot of different promotions, all levels. So I've been enjoying watching it and learning and surveying the battlefield, if you will. I'm getting ready to make my return.
Oh, well, Jared, that's all I have for you. Thanks so much for doing this again. I appreciate it as always.
You're welcome. Have a good one, Cole.
Yeah. All right, we're jumping UFC light heavyweight. Dustin Jacoby is back in action here on June 8th and going down to Kentucky. Justin, how's it going, man?
Good, man. I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to go compete in Louisville. And, those type of people are my type of people, the blue collar, the country folk. I'm excited to go compete for those guys down there in Kentucky.
uh, massive fight like Dominic Reyes, like obviously a big name. Like, how excited were you when you got this name offered to you?
Super excited, man. Dominic Reyes is a very big name, very tough opponent. You know, he arguably beat John Jones, you know, in Jones's prime, and very dangerous guy, a guy that has his back against the wall. And I know what it feels like to be counted out, and you can't ever count out a guy like that. A very good athlete, very explosive striker. Looking forward to the matchup and an opportunity to, you know, put a notch under my belt with a name like Dominic Reyes.
About 6 months after your last one, like, was this about longer layoff than what you were anticipating?
You know, it's just I needed the body to heal up. Unfortunately, I fractured my ankle in that last fight and tore a tendon and a ligament in my ankle, and thankfully I did not require surgery. But I just needed some time to heal, and that's what we've been doing. We've been healing, training, getting better.
What do you take away from that fight against Alonso? Like, obviously a very close fight, could have gone either way. Like, what do you take away from that one?
Yeah, it's just another experience, man. I'm very disappointed in myself not walking away as the victor in that fight. I thought for 2.5 rounds, for 13 minutes, I was beating him. I thought I won the first round. I thought he had a good punch in the second round, but still not enough to take the round. And then obviously in the third round with the big punch that dropped me, I still fought back. I still fought to my feet. I still thought that, there was an outside shot. I got the decision, but at the same time, I have won fights in that exact same manner. When I fought Oleg Zajic, who's got a big fight against Kevin Holland coming up, I'm super happy to watch his progress through his career. But when I fought him, I dropped him in the second round and put it on him in the third, and ended up winning a unanimous decision, 29-28, the same way Alonzo did. So I can't be mad at the decision. I'm just really upset with myself of not getting that victory. I think that the better fighter did not win that night. I still feel I'm better than Alonzo, and the past is the past. I've had time to improve and get better and move on, and I get a chance to do that with Dominic Reyes.
And with Reyes, like, what have you made of his past couple fights? Like, I see a lot of people writing him off, saying his chin's gone, but like, on the flip side, you look at the guys that he's fighting are Ryan Spann, Yuri Prohaska, Jan Blachowicz, are probably three of the hardest hitters at 205. Like, what have you kind
You're
of made of that run?
You're exactly right, man. I mean, I'm thinking the same thing. I got guys telling me, "Oh man, you're gonna walk through Dominic. He has no chin left." It's like, dude, you guys don't understand. This guy's been fighting the best of the best. And dude, I understand, like, when he fought John Jones, he left a lot of himself in that octagon. And to walk away as the loser in a fight that you clearly feel like you won and a lot of people thought you won. It's like me with Khalil Roundtree. Dude, I left so much myself in that octagon that night, and then to top it off, I get the loss. So I've been through that. I've walked, the same path as Sam. It wasn't for a title fight, so his arguably hurts even worse. But, and then, to go in there and have that performance and then fight the best guys in the world over and over and over again, it's a very unforgiving sport, man. If you look at his fight with Jiri, he clipped Jiri. He rocked Jiri. And, if, the fight would have just went the other way, just a couple sudden changes, he comes out on top of Jiri, who is now, arguably the number one contender and very fight himself. So I think Dominic Reyes has had a tough run here the past few years, ever since he fought John Jones, but still a very dangerous opponent. And by no means do I think I'm going to go in there and walk through him. But I do understand that I have the power, and his the way his career is kind of trending right now. I got the power to end the fight in one shot.
Fourth straight fight for you in front of fans. Like, how exciting is that? Where it kind of seems like you might be out of the Apex for good.
Yeah, I know, man. That is awesome. When I heard about this fight, I was told that it was going to be at the Apex. So, and I was really wanting to fight at UFC 303 the end of June. I was really wanting to get on the McGregor card and fight in front of fans. I was told June 8th was at the Apex. And then like the next week, I was getting text messages. I think I was on the golf course, and people were shooting me text messages that the fight was in Kentucky. So super exciting, man. Anytime you can fight in front of fans the way it should be, the way that we all started this sport, the way that, this sport is what you do, man. You put it on the line in front of everybody. You're the man in the arena. And, I love being the man in the arena. I love the fans. I feed off the energy, the crowd. And, again, Louisville, Kentucky, those are my type of people. And I'm really looking forward to going out there and putting on a show for them.
Is there a bit of disappointment though that they announced they're going to Colorado a month after your fight, and like maybe you wish like, oh, maybe I sit another month and get on that card?
I mean, a little bit, but at the same time, I'm gonna be in there. I've got teammates already confirmed on the card. I don't think their fights have been announced, so I can't really say which ones, but I'm definitely gonna be there. It's definitely gonna be a good night, a good weekend. And then you never know, man. I go in here and take care of business, short and quick. We could get on that. Although, the guy that just beat Alonzo Minifield, I know he's wanting to fight, and there's a big card in Perth, and I could see us having a little collision course as well. So, the first things first is Dominic Reyes. He is no easy opponent. Very big, strong, athletic guy. And a guy that was once the ruler of this division, a guy that was once at the very top, and, everybody was chasing him. So I've got my hands full June 8th, and looking forward to the opportunity.
Do you think Dominic might go back to kind of his roots and start wrestling more just after like kind of the 3 straight knockouts, and especially against you being like that kickboxer?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a very good possibility of him coming out and wrestling, but man, wrestling, it gets you pretty tired, and I feel like I have really good takedown defense, and I'm not just easy to go in there and take down. A lot of people are like, man, and there's not a lot of grapplers at 205 anyway, but I'm just not as easy as it may seem, and but I definitely see him going back to his wrestling roots and working some takedowns for sure.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then for you?
I really do see myself. You ask me how I'm going to win a fight, I always say by knockout, TKO, damage on the feet. And, I truly believe in my power. I believe in my precision, my striking, my timing. And I think there's a good chance I'm going to catch him early on, man. That's kind of what we've been seeing in his fights recently. Now, he has had a long layoff, too. He hasn't fought since November of 2022. So hopefully, there's plenty of time to recover, and he's in a good state mentally and physically, which I'm sure he will be. But you ask me how I'm going to win, I always say by knockout. And I think, the techniques and the timing that we're working right now, and we got a couple things up our sleeve to catch him early.
Where do you think what do you think a win does for you? Like, I know you aren't in the rankings anymore, but you're kind of probably that 16th guy. You probably right out. Dominic is ranked. Like, what do you think a win does for you?
Well, a win for one puts me right back in the top 15. And another thing, I'm kind of pissed that that Vitor that fought Anthony Smith came and took my spot at number 15 and lasted 2 minutes in the top 15. So, that kind of goes to show you those rankings are, they are what they are. It's kind of like a popularity contest. It's a young kid, 11-0, undefeated, goes in there and can't even hang 2 minutes in the top 15. And, with that being said, he had a very tough opponent in Anthony Smith. But, first and foremost, the win puts me back in the top 15 and also gives me the opportunity to be somebody like Dominic Reyes to fight up. Every time I was in the top 15, I felt like I was defending my spot. I was always defending my spot. Even when I fought Khalil, he was behind me. Asmat was behind me. Deun Jung was behind me. Kennedy Nzechukwu was behind me. I never was able to fight up. I've always been fighting back. So I think a win over Dominic Reyes allows me to, proclaim my shot at a guy, that's closer to the top 10.
With that Anthony Smith fight, I know you work a lot with Anthony. Like, were you surprised he was that big of an underdog and people were writing off that much going into that fight?
Well, I wasn't necessarily surprised he was that big of an underdog. What I was more surprised is how it seemed like his opponent kind of took him lightly. If you look at the trajectory of their careers, one guy's 11-0, 20, 10 years the elder, or 10 years younger, and undefeated, has a lot of hype behind him, just gets into the top 15. On the other hand, you got Anthony Smith, who's if you've watched the past couple fights, hasn't looked the best out there, but still a very dangerous opponent. And I think that uh, that Vitor Petroni, right? Is that his name? Or
Yeah, Petrino.
Vitor Petrino. I think he took him lightly, man. He went in there and thought that he was going to walk through a savvy vet like Anthony Smith, and there was lessons learned that night. And like Anthony said, there's levels to this game, and Vitor definitely learned a lesson that you can't overlook anybody, regardless of how you think you look in the mirror compared to how Anthony looks, or your age compared to his age, and then to go in for a takedown on a jiu-jitsu black belt. Anthony is very, very dangerous. I roll with this guy all the time. It's absolutely awful. The guy is just so dangerous in jiu-jitsu, and to go in there and just kind of half-ass, try to take him down, put your head right in there, give him the guillotine. I mean, good luck, man. I think he got exactly what he was asking for, and kudos to Anthony to show that he's still a dangerous contender in that division.
Past couple months, there's been some big light heavyweight fights. You obviously had Alex knocking out Jamal. You had Yuri winning. Like, what do you kind of made that top of the division in the past couple fights? It kind of seems like Yuri's going to be next. I don't really know what's up with Ankalaev. He's just kind of still sitting there. But like, what do you kind of thoughts on the top of the division?
Yeah, the top of the division, man, it's open, but at the same time, you got a few guys that are, Jerry is, I can already tell he would be a handful. He's just so unorthodox, and the way he moves is different. And his mental toughness, man, I don't think there's a guy in that top 5 there that's mentally tougher than him. I think that he has the best bet of taking out Pereira. Even in their first fight, man, I thought that he was going to get it to the ground a little bit quicker, a little bit more often than he did. But Pereira is just so dangerous with those hands. Ankalaev's another dangerous opponent. So you got those guys in the top 5 that are holding it down, and very high level mixed martial artists. But at the same time, the division's open, man, and I can go get a big win over Dominic Reyes. Timing's everything. I have history with Khalil Roundtree. I have history with Alex Pereira. I fight somebody in that 5 to 10 range. I get a big win there, and timing's everything. I can get in there and face one of those guys.
Is Khalil the guy you'd most want to rematch just because of how close that fight was?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, I just do not feel I lost that fight. And talking to Khalil in the center of that octagon on that night, I felt like he felt the same way, man. I thought we both knew who won that fight, and the judges saw different. So, yeah, very close fight. And now a guy, gosh, man, it's so crazy to me that a guy that I feel like I won, I beat, I feel like I took his soul, I feel like I took it to him, I was just more headstrong, is now fighting for arguably the number 1 contender spot. Go out there and he gets a big win, he's fighting for the title. So it's just another reminder to myself how close I am, and I would definitely love to run that back with Khalil.
Just final thing, like, what is the goal then for you this year? Like, I know fighting middle of June, like, I imagine you still want at least one more in this year. So, like, what is kind of the ideal rest of the year look like?
Yeah, man. I mean, the first and foremost, to go out there and get an impressive victory over Dominic Reyes. I think that does wonders for my career. It does wonders for me mentally. It really is a big win that I can, look back and be proud of. And again, it catapults me in the right direction. Here I go, taking out a guy, one of the best guys in the division, regardless of where he's ranked, 3, 2, 1, or 14. Still one of the best guys in the division. And to just continue moving up from there, man. Like I said, I'd like to fight up after that, and definitely get another one in this year.
Well, Dustin, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
I appreciate you, Cole, man. It's always a good time, and one of these days we'll have to hit the links.
Yeah, have you been golfing much?
Yeah, I play weekly, usually about once or twice a week, once for sure. The game has not been that great this summer, but, regardless, I keep swinging.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dustin, thanks again, man. All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight Cody Stamann, who's finally back in action here. Cody, how's it going, man?
Good, really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Like, the first thing, obviously been a while since we've seen you, like May of last year. Like, what has kind of been the reason for a year-long layoff for you here?
I tore my bicep. Yeah, I didn't say anything. I didn't publicly come out and say I did it, just because I've done it before, and everyone kind of like shits on you when you come out and tell them, that you got injured, even though you're a professional fighter. So I just didn't say anything. I was scheduled to fight in October, and like literally the first week of my fight camp, I ripped my bicep in early September. So it's been, so I was out for, like 3 months out of training. After 3 months, I could start the drill, and now, I mean, I don't even think about it anymore. Honestly, it's as strong or better than it was before. I feel like it's like that movie where, you know what I mean, you like stuck your tendon a little bit tighter. Now you're a little bit stronger. Like that's kind of how I feel.
Did you know like right away it was a serious injury? Like when you did it?
Oh, I mean, I felt it just come undone. Like it's just completely just a really loud pop, and my arm was kind of like stuck at 90 degrees. Like I couldn't like straighten my arm out. I couldn't bend it. I was like, what is going on? And then as soon as it loosened up, because I've never had like a major surgery like that before, I was convinced that, I was like, I think I'll be all right. I think I'm okay. But my arm was just so weak. I couldn't grapple. I could throw a punch, but I couldn't really retract it. If someone hit my arm, it kind of just fell dead. So yeah, I made the decision after, probably 48 hours right after I did the injury. After I had the injury, I was in surgery that same week. So, and everything went well. 100% full recovery, and yeah, I'm like looking forward to fighting again. Like when it's taken away from you like that, especially like I fight Douglas Andrade. I'm begging for a fight, and then I get a fight against Healy Alatalong, the Chinese kid. But it was a short notice. It was a short notice. I had about a month to get ready, so I just pretty much stopped eating and started training it crazy hard. And like the second day I did this. So yeah, to say that I'm like hungry and motivated to compete again, I think it's an understatement. I can't really think of a time when I was like this excited to go fight. Really, I mean, it's been a long time since I kind of had that excitement, behind the sport, for the sport.
Well, I remember talking to you after the Douglas fight, and you were kind of itching. Like I think we talked like the Tuesday or Wednesday after, and you were kind of getting ready to want to get back in there, just get that bad taste in your mouth. It's like, how hard has it been to sit on that then for this long? Because I know you wanted to kind of correct that fight right away.
Yeah. I mean, I was begging. I was like, just anything. I will fight at 35, 45, 55. I kept my weight under control. I stayed in the gym. I mean, I was ready for a short notice opportunity in a week. And so I pretty much did that all summer. I think a lot of the reasons I got hurt is probably because I stayed like on the gas pedal, consistently, like just waiting, thinking that someone was going to get hurt. There was going to be an opportunity, and there was a couple opportunities, but I was told no by opponents, a couple different times, and rightly so. Like I'm not the guy you really want to fight on short notice, and they were kind of newer guys in the UFC. It's gotten a lot harder. Like when I had a number next to my name, it was like I could just point in a direction and there was a guy like lined up waiting to fight me. But now that I don't, and I have the experience against, high level opponents that I do, it's been a lot more challenging to just get people to kind of line up and say, yeah, I'll do it. So I'm really grateful Taylor Lapilus is gonna fight me here in about a month.
Yeah, because I do think you are kind of in a pretty shitty spot where like they could throw you up against a top 5 guy. You're gonna have a competitive fight, like you've proven that. But if you're a guy trying to get into the rankings, like I don't see a lot of people signing up wanting to fight you because you're a tough fight. You're a tough fight that be like you're tougher than some guys in like that top 10, top 15.
I agree, and when I really actually look at it, I mean, I've probably fought more guys in the top 10 than a lot of guys in the top 10, honestly. And that's like insane. That's just shows you, I put so much like stake into the rankings and like what they meant. And, it was so important to me. And now that like, I don't have that number next to my name, I feel like I could fight anyone, which is beautiful, but also terrible because nobody really wants to like, step up and fight me. I do think by the end of the year though, I'll be in the top 10, top 15 again.
And like I think it kind of shows like out of Marab's like run, you've given him the toughest fight, and he's fought like Jan Cejudo, Aldo, like he's fought all these former champions and legends.
Yeah. I mean, Marab, guy's an animal. You know, I had a really, really close fight. You know, I felt like there were just a couple exchanges that, you know, could have made the difference in that fight. You know, some just emotional mistakes on my part. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like wrestling at that level, like, you know, outside of Marab, I don't really see anybody in the division that can wrestle the way I can. You know, and keep that kind of grinding wrestling pace. You know, too. So, and that's like something I've really gotten away from a lot. And you know, my last few fights, really, I kind of didn't want to be known as a wrestler, so I stopped wrestling. But I'm wrestling again. I'm back on the wrestling.
With this one, like, just before you get into it, I just want to ask, being in front of fans, like, how excited are you for that, where you're out of the Apex in front of a crowd?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a different energy, like going into fight week. Just, it's not even so much like the fans, because that's like such a small part of the whole ordeal. It's the weigh-in. It's like, you know, you're going to a hotel. It's not like you're staying at your, like, I live in Las Vegas, so I mean, the Apex is a mile from my house. Like, I literally, like, somebody picks me up from my house, I go to the Apex, you know, and I'm in and out and I'm back home, which is really actually really nice and simple. But there's just a different feeling when you go and you're in a hotel for a fight week with just with your team, and the atmosphere is so much different. You know, it just feels so much more focused and it's so much more memorable like that. You know, compared to, you know, getting picked up from your house and just driving over to the Apex and then leaving directly afterwards. It's a completely different experience, and I really do. I miss, you know, traveling for fights. You know, I don't financially, I don't love it, right? But I mean, in terms of like the energy and just the experiences that you get in those fight weeks, you know, those are some of the most memorable experiences I have, like, as an athlete.
And with Taylor, like, how familiar were you with him? Like, in his second stint in the UFC, but it was weird. Like, he went 3-1 in that first, and I just don't know, like, if he didn't want to sign or like the UFC didn't bring back. But then, like, he's went on a nice run. Obviously, they brought him back and 1-1 since then. But he's looked very good in the UFC.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a tough kid. No, I wasn't familiar. I watched him fight Basharat. I watched that fight. That's the only fight I'd seen, so I knew his name. So like when they asked me, it was an immediate yes. I didn't have to I didn't consult with anyone. It was like, yep, like, send me the contract. Yeah, tough kid, southpaw, crazy long arms. Definitely skilled kickboxer, very, very technical, which, I mean, for me, I would much rather fight someone technical than somebody that's kind of sporadic and brawly. I feel like I have a harder time with guys like that. Someone that's technical, that kind of understands the dance moves, is definitely someone I would prefer. So, yeah, I mean, I really, really like this fight. I think that his reach will be, you know, my greatest, you know, challenge in this fight. But I don't know. I honestly believe that I'm going to absolutely tear through this kid.
Who are you working with? Like, obviously, plenty of guys are at Extreme in Vegas, and like people just kind of come through town every week by week. But like, who are kind of the main ones for this one?
Rodney, Pooney, there's two up and coming southpaws that are Hawaiian kids, very, very good boxers. Just like literally like tailor made for this. And I've been drilling a lot with Lance Palmer, who's another southpaw, crazy long arms, like has the exact same body type. So I mean, and then, you know, like Dan Ige, you know, the guys that I normally have in my camp. My buddy Chad Decker. I mean, it's crazy. People come to the rooms in Vegas, you know, come to Extreme Couture or the PI, and there's like 15 UFC fighters at a practice, you know, and there might be 6 guys in my weight class in one practice. It's insane. Like, the talent level here is incredible. Like, you can't go anywhere. Maybe American Top Team you could, but like consistently, like training with like top, you know, 30, 40 guys in the world on a daily basis, like, you just can't do that anywhere but Vegas. I mean, I feel like if you're a professional athlete and you're not here, you're kind of falling behind, because there's so many good bodies, and if you can just lose your ego for a little bit and like listen, there's a lot I mean, you can learn so much from, you know, all these different guys from all these different places that have a great skill level, or they have like a few tricks that you can learn. And like this whole stint, this last like year, has really been like watching, learning, and I feel like this is the first time in a long time where I just, obviously I'm hurt. I don't have a fight coming up, and I'm not so focused on staying in shape and keeping my weight down. It's just like watching and learning, and I feel like I've honestly grown a lot as an athlete. Just being more coachable, like really just kind of getting out of my own head, and just like listening, because I've fought some of the best guys in the world, and I think I kind of have it all figured out. Obviously I've fallen short a few times, but I looked at it like those are just like little mistakes that I had in my game plan. But I've really actually learned probably more in this last year than I did in the 5 years prior.
With this one, like you mentioned how you're gonna go back to your wrestling. That's something you hadn't done in the past. Like, when did that kind of switch in your head of like, because we've been doing these for a couple of years now, and it's always been like the wrestling's in the back pocket if you need it, but you want to show off your striking. So like, when did that kind of flip?
Well, it was just kind of like, all right, I literally watched every fight I've won and lost, and it's like when I'm getting 2 takedowns around, I'm a pretty terrible guy. Like, it's almost impossible to beat me, because defensively on my feet, I'm hard to find. And like, if I'm taking you down and you're on your butt for 2 minutes of the fight, I only have to land a few shots to win a round. You know what I mean? And if one of those shots is a big shot, like, the fight could easily be over. It could set up a takedown, set up something else. And I literally just went back and kind of studied myself, and like literally looked at it from an opponent's perspective too. Like, okay, like what would I be looking for if I was fighting myself? What would I try to capitalize on? And I mean, first, I would be like, well, you got to defend takedowns. You know what I mean? Like, this kid can wrestle for real. You got to defend takedowns. It's like, well, if I'm not even wrestling, you know what I mean? I'm shooting 0 times in a fight. Like, that changes like who I am. Like, it's a saying amongst fighters, but like, don't forget what got you to the show. You know what I mean? And like, throughout my career, I've gotten 4 or 5 takedowns every fight. I came into the UFC pretty polished. 14-1. I was 17-1 when I fought Aljamain Sterling. So, and in that fight, I took him down a bunch of times. So it's like, don't forget what got you to the show. And I'm just like, dude, you can wrestle like at a really, really high level. And literally not doing that, I'm like handcuffing myself. You know what I mean? I have these abilities, you know what I mean? These physical gifts. I have to like get a hold of somebody and throw them around a little bit. And honestly, then everything else falls into place, So I'm just like looking at it like how dumb am I for not like using one of my absolute best like physical attributes?
How much is there any pressure going on to this one? Just coming off that layoff and like that close fight, or is there any pressure on you?
I mean, I think there's always a ton of pressure. Like, every fight is like the most important fight of your life. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like live or die as an athlete. It's like you make it happen or your whole world is crushed. And I know both the feelings. You know what I mean? Where everything I worked for pans out and my hand gets raised and I feel good. I feel great, and I know like I work my butt off and things don't go the way I want it to. I know all the peaks and valleys that this sport has to offer. I think the biggest thing for me is just not putting it up on a pedestal. You know what I mean? Not putting my opponent up on a pedestal, not putting a fight up on a pedestal. Like, obviously understanding that like this is absolutely like do or die for me as an athlete every single time I get in that cage, but not being so stressed about it for 8 weeks leading up to the fight. You know what I mean? Not spiraling out of control, just understanding that like, yes, I am going to get in a fight. I got to fight for my life, on June 8th. But today I'm just going to sit by my pool after, I did 3 workouts, and not like stressing about it.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I mean, honestly, I'm either going to set a single fight takedown record or I'm going to put him down. Like, I think I knock him out in the second round. You know, I think once I can establish some wrestling, I can figure his range out. I think it'll definitely be, you know, he'll be challenging, you know, especially in the first couple minutes. I think I'll have a hard time getting to him. But, you know, once I figure out, you know, once I touch him one time, I'll continue to do that. And I really do think I can put him down in the second round.
Well, what do you think a win here does for you? Like, you're kind of someone always near those rankings, like getting back in the win column. Like, where do you think that kind of puts you?
Well, I think you know, it can't just be a win. It's got to be an impressive win, you know. And with an impressive win, I think I can go after somebody in the top 15, top 10. Once upon a time, I was slated to fight Rob Font. I would really, really like that fight to come to fruition. You know, Rob Font, I got injured, you know, preparing for that fight. And, you know, he was kind of an asshole about it. His team was, you know, and I haven't forgot about it. And really, that's kind of like what I'm envisioning in my head is I take out Taylor Lapis the way I know I can. And then, you know, Rob Font will be the guy that I call out on the microphone afterwards.
Yeah, I remember that because you was supposed to fight what in 2019 in like Greenville or whatever that card was, and then I remember after when you pulled out, like I remember at media day he was like ripping you apart.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, you understand? Like I did my entire camp in Colorado. I invested a ton of money into, you know, preparing for that fight because I knew I had to be in great shape because Rob Font is a talented dude. And then, you know, he just had nothing but terrible things to say. I'm like, dude, you really think I didn't want to fight you? I mean, and then I go from, you know, fighting Rob Font to fighting an even more dangerous, like Song Yadong on 6 weeks notice, you know? So yeah, I didn't like the way he handled that. And, you know, but I mean, Karma's a crazy animal. I mean, I think he tore his ACL that same night I fought Song Yadong. So, and, you know, when he did that, I saw him at the PI and I was like, I'm a better man, a bigger man. And I went up to him and I'm like, man, I hope this recovery process is great for you. And I look forward to seeing you back in the cage. You know, just difference in character. You know, I just don't think that Rob Font is a man of a whole lot of character, like based on the way he treated me. So I would very much like to stand across the cage from him and figure it out that way.
Just two more things. Like, obviously, since the last time you've been in there, the bantamweight division's changed a whole lot. A new champ, Aldo returned. Like, what he kind of made of the whole division since you've been gone?
It's crazy. Bantamweight is crazy. It's like maybe if I wouldn't have cut weight in high school and stunted my growth, I could fight at 45, and that would be so much easier. Because it's the worst division in the UFC. Like, I don't care what anyone says. They're like, oh, 55 is so tough. Like, there's not a division that's even 50% of the depth of bantamweight. I mean, there's so many. And then it's like every other weekend I see a guy like come out of nowhere and you're like, wow, that kid is talented. Like he's good everywhere. Like great grappling, great striking. And it's like, holy crap. Like there's so many like young killers in the division too. It's really, really crazy. Like I don't think there's you could stack two weight classes up that equals like the depth and the talent pool that bantamweight has. It's really, really insane.
Just final thing, like when we last talked, you said you were appealing that fight. Like, whatever happened with that one?
I mean, so I talked with the was it South North Carolina? I mean, I forget now, but the athletic commission, and you know, I kind of pleaded my case, and you know, basically told them, you know, here are the rules. This is what it says. Basically, the rules. There was a little bit of a gray area in the rules, right? It was kind of like it was they left it up to the referee judgment. So since then, the ACB, the rules have been changed to make it more black and white. So, I mean, that did happen, but with my appeal, absolutely nothing. I mean, I had to explain to these people like the importance of a takedown in MMA, and they're like, well, could you kind of explain to us like what exactly is happening in the exchange that you know you're appealing? Like these people didn't know what guard was, they didn't know what side control was. Like I was saying these things, and they're like, could you explain what that means? And I'm like, this is a lost cause. Like these people don't even understand. They don't understand the positioning on the ground, and these are the people that are deciding like my fate. I mean, I knew like right after I had a conversation with them, like nothing was going to happen because they didn't understand anything that was going on. You know what I mean? So that's just the sport evolving so much faster than these small athletic commissions can. You know, and like that's like it has nothing to do with the UFC. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just like in these back, you know, like here I am going to Kentucky. I'm sure I'm going to deal with an athletic. Hopefully, the athletic commission in Kentucky is a little bit more savvy than the people in Carolina. But yeah, it's just wild that, you know, like we're fighting on this grand stage, the biggest stage in MMA ever, and like we're still being like these people are still in the Stone Age. Like, I mean, they don't even understand the sport. They don't have a clue what's going on. They're no different than the average fan sitting on their couch. You know what I mean? Other than the fact that they have like some influence of as to what can happen. It's really, really, really insane. And like I said, nothing like not the UFC's fault. Just so fans understand, it has nothing to do with the UFC. The UFC is literally like handcuffed by these like individual athletic commissions, and there's really nothing that they can do. But I mean, that's the game. That's the game, and I can't really be mad about it. You know, I had an opportunity to finish that fight, and I didn't. So if like there's any anyone to blame, you're looking at them.
Just one more quick thing. Like, what's the goal then for you this year? Like, fighting in June, I imagine you want to be pretty active. Like, but it kind of sets you up to not be too active fighting midway through the year.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope I can get in and out of this relatively unscathed, and I can get something again in the summer. I definitely want to be super active this year. I feel like when I'm more active, better things happen. You know what I mean? I don't want big layoffs. Like I just had a huge layoff. I got some time to make up for, and I'm not getting any younger, and I wanna make a run for the top, and I need to string some stuff together if I'm going to do that, and I think I can do that this year.
Well, Cody, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're jumping UFC bantamweight John Castaneda, who's back in action here at UFC Louisville. John, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Thanks for having me, Cole.
Yeah, been a bit since we saw you, like early November last year. Like, you surprised it took you 7 months to get booked now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like I'm on routine. Last year I fought June and November. So this year we're fighting June again, and hopefully again, quick turnaround in November. So yeah.
Oh, what was it a reason on your end, or was it just like the UFC just couldn't get you a fight?
No, we just hadn't had any offers. I think honestly we had one offer in March. But I'm going to be honest with you, Cole. The fight just didn't make sense to me. Right. I'm at the point in my career where I feel like I need to be moving up on the ladder, right? And I got offered a debut guy, and it really didn't make sense to me. You know, if I beat him, it's almost as if like, okay, well, I'm supposed to beat him, right? I'm already kind of established. If I lose to him, then there's obviously like a lot to lose. So I was just like, nah, you know, I'm gonna wait for a way better opponent, and this was it. You know, an undefeated guy, undefeated prospect, and Daniel Marcos. He's got some good wins in the UFC already, so definitely worth the wait.
What have you made of his UFC run? Like, he looked good against Oliveira. That David Grandpa was super close, and like he was obviously dominating his last fight until obviously the no contest.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think he's a tough guy for sure. 31-year-old, so you know he's basically the same age as I am. I think he's a good boxer. I think he has yet to be kind of tested in the ground and jiu-jitsu area, right? Even as I look at this guy as, you know, as a 3-0 guy in the UFC, right? I don't care about his 15-0, 16-0 record, especially because most of the guys all the way up until like 10-0 were very, very like inexperienced guys, right? He was fighting guys who were 1-0, 2-0, stuff like that, you know? So good guy, well-rounded, but you know, I don't think he's been tested quite to the level that I'm going to test him. So
with this one, like fighting back in front of fans too, like how exciting is that? Obviously the last one was in front of fans, but just kind of remaining there and out of that Apex. How exciting is that for you?
Oh, super exciting. And I know UFC hasn't been to Louisville in a couple of years, so I'm very excited to kind of go back there, establish myself in front of some fans in the crowd. I'm a showman at the end of the day, and honestly, I think fighting in those bigger crowds with people, it gets me hype, and it really, really gets me going during the fight and stuff. I feel like I perform a lot better in front of people, so I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to be at the Yum Stadium.
Do you bring in anyone different for this camp, or is it just kind of the same guys you've always been working with?
Same guys. Yep, absolutely. I've actually just really worked on my boxing a lot this camp with my boxing coach, where I work boxing in Minnesota, in Edina, Minnesota, with my coach Delico. This guy, Daniel Marcos, I find him to be very technically sound on the feet, a good boxer, good defensive striker, good counter striker, but obviously very good offensively as well. So just really trying to focus on sharpening my striking, my boxing. He's got decent kicks, good dexterity with his legs and stuff like that. But honestly, all of the people that he's fought are very much like immobile, right? They're not, in my opinion, they're very stationary guys, right? Especially his last fight, right? Fighting a guy like AQ, somebody who's just pressing forward, not really moving a lot, not really showing him a lot of different looks, right? I'm going to be showing him a lot of looks from southpaw, orthodox, a lot of dexterity with kicks, knees, elbows. I've been working a lot with my movement, as it's kind of showed my last few fights. So like I said, he hasn't fought anybody like me. Nobody as mobile as me. And I think it's going to be a good fight.
You've been, 2 fights outside of the Apex, and then the rest are in the Apex. Like, do you think the bigger octagon plays much of a role, or do you think it's kind of a similar fight regardless?
I'm sorry. Do I think the what plays a bigger
role? There's a bigger octagon when you go in the venue. Like, do you think it plays much of a role for you guys?
Absolutely. I think it honestly all depends on the fighter's style, right? And for me and my style, especially what I've embraced as of recent fights, a lot of mobility, right? So I think it definitely favors not me more so than him, but just favors my style, right? Compared to the Apex. I also think that, like I said, there's obviously more room to work around in the octagon, but also I feel like if I do plan on taking advantage of my wrestling, I would obviously prefer the smaller cage, but I can make it happen in the big cage or the small cage. So
how do you kind of see this one playing out? Like, Daniel's a tough guy, undefeated, like been fighting some really tough guys, showing off a good chin stuff. Like, how do you kind of see this one playing out?
Yeah, for sure. I think that honestly, like I was kind of stating earlier, he hasn't really been tested in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu aspect. So I know that's going to be there. I actually just got my black belt in jiu-jitsu last month. I've been feeling really sharp with my wrestling as of lately. So, I don't think Peru doesn't have good wrestling. You don't think of Peru and you think of, oh, he's a good wrestler. I know he's actually training out of Florida now, but I've been wrestling my whole life, and that's something that you can't make up for. Right. So I know I'll have the advantage on the ground, wrestling category, jiu-jitsu category. So I think this fight ends by submission within 2 rounds.
What do you think a win here does feel like? He's not a guy in the rankings, but you hand him a first loss. Like, you hand anyone the first loss, it obviously does pretty well for you and bumps you up.
Absolutely. Everybody else, I mean, even his last 3 fights, I've obviously, as we watch these guys progress, we were watching the commentators and, doing some studying on his film and stuff. So all the guys all the commentators, DC, Dominic Cruz, they're all, man, this guy's, right on the cusp of top 15, so obviously it's almost as if I'll take that place. Right. So I beat him. I hand him his first loss. I'm now the guy who's on the top of the, cusp on the top 15. So he's 15-0. He's a tough guy. He's resilient. He's durable, but I definitely think he's very beatable and finishable for sure. So, after this fight, obviously I'm not thinking about the future quite yet, but got to take care of business here. But then, yes, absolutely. Somebody who's in the top 15 is absolutely next.
Yeah, because when I talked to Adrian Yanez before his last fight, he actually mentioned your name, and he thought you two would fight coming off the lose streak. He thought you deserved a guy that was kind of right near the rankings, and he knew that he had to fight someone unranked, which I thought was kind of interesting because you don't really hear guys right near the ranks or in the ranks say I'm going to give this guy a chance, or he deserves that top 15 guy.
Sure. I think honestly, it's just Adrian's kind of like me, where we're trying to make the most excitement out of our fights, right? And I think that me and Adrian Yanez would be a super exciting fight, to be a banger. We're both Latino fighters, so we bring that community with us. We're both willing to sit in the pocket and exchange and bang and stuff like that. But also, I honestly, Adrian Yanez, he had a tough year last year. Just fought last weekend, good performance, but it was against a 25er, on a 3-fight losing streak. So I'm not really worried about Adrian Yanez right now. I'm worried about Daniel Marcos, and we'll kind of reevaluate after that.
They are doing that Mexican card of the Sphere. Is there some hope of getting a quick turnaround and getting on that card?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I definitely want to take care of business here in the next 2 weeks. But then, yes, the goal is for the Sphere. I've been eyeing that card for a year now since it got announced. So absolutely, it would absolutely be a goal of mine.
I think it would just be like kind of a bucket list thing to fight in there, because who knows, like, if they'll ever do another fight in that thing, and to say you fought there would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely be testing for it after this fight. Absolutely.
Say you do get past Daniel, like, what is kind of the goal then? Like, kind of just talk about the Spear, but what is kind of the goal of the next couple steps for you laid out?
Yeah, we kind of just kind of visited it already, but yeah, the Sphere. So definitely like a quicker turnaround, September, and then hopefully a top 15 guy. Anybody in 10 through 15, definitely willing to sign the contract immediately. I think I'm ready. I think that I'm peaking as a martial artist. I'm doing the right things, and I feel sharp. So hopefully in 2 weeks here, I'm ready to prove that.
Weight's not a concern at all. I know the last one was a catch. That was on, what was it, your end or Kang's end?
That was on my end. So yeah, catch weight 138 instead of 136, and the only reason behind that was because of antibiotics. So yeah. I don't know what it is with staph infections and like close to fight night, but I had a staph infection right around this time, so right around 2 weeks out. I had to be on antibiotics. So I forewarned the UFC, and I sent them all the medical requirements that were needed and said, hey, look, I've been on this antibiotic before. It was actually the Daniel Santos fight. So I had a staph infection leading up to that one as well. And what these antibiotics do, they actually like retain a lot of water weight. They make you retain a lot of water weight. So I just kind of let them know. And I said, hey, can you propose a catch weight? If not, no issues. We'll make the 136, but I'm just letting you guys know ahead of time, like 2+ weeks in advance, that I am on antibiotics currently, and will be all the way up until like 5 days from fight night. So it's definitely not going to be out of my system, stuff like that. So I did my due diligence, and they accepted. Obviously, they're traveling from from Korea, so obviously that's a long flight. I'm sure he was all about getting that extra 2 pounds. So
because that's what your second time now dealing with that. Like, is that a concern going forward? Or is that just like, do you think it's kind of a fluke thing?
Yeah,
like, what do you think that is?
Yeah, we're trying to keep it under wraps for sure. And I think it might be, I don't want to maybe point a finger to a certain thing, but it might be like nutrition based, right? Lower immune system when I'm cutting weight, but I'm doing the right things now. I'm taking the right steps. I'm talking to my nutritionist. We're healthy this camp, so that's all that matters. And hopefully we get a wrap on it in the future.
Well, John, that's all I have for you, though. Thanks so much for doing this again, as always.
Thanks again, Cole. Appreciate you.